You're listening to Answers for the Family with Alan Cardoza, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Greetings to all of you listening around the world, and a warm welcome as we bring you another edition of the Answers for the Family radio show. I'm your host, Alan Cardoza, and for the regular listeners out there, thank you so much for joining us once again. If this is your first time, please make yourself at home as we bring you Answers for the Family. Now, each week, this show will address issues such as locating a runaway teen, family crisis intervention, building self-esteem, dealing with addictions, lasting health, and so much more. Now, having over 30 years' experience working with families in crisis, I've been fortunate to meet and work with some of the top professionals in many of the helping fields who are all working to make this world a better place for us. And you can all do me a huge favor. Please check out some of our past shows at answersforthefamily.com to hear some informative and entertaining guests, as well as some dynamic co-hosts discuss ways for you and your loved ones to become happier, healthier, and more at peace. Now, I'm also looking for some show ambassadors who will forward at least one of our shows to your social media group, and or have someone that you know that can benefit from a particular show and forward it to them. Now, I truly appreciate it, and this is just another way that we can make a positive difference in the lives of others. Now, I'm looking at some of the technical things here. For those of us that are, or for those of you that are watching on Facebook Live, you probably heard us discussing some of the technical parts of this. So our guest is out of the country right now. So while Ronan, our engineer, is dealing with that, I'm going to go straight to our co-host and go with the question that many people now are wondering. Gabriella, where in the world are you? And for those people who haven't heard you on the show before, share a little bit about your story and how it shaped you to be the person you are today.
I love kindness because I'm the recipient of one single act of kindness as an adoptee, as an orphan in an orphanage in Pakistan, and people helped to get me out and to get me to a waiting family in the Netherlands. And that single act of kindness obviously made my life better. And so I go around with the Dare to Be Kind movement to let people know how much power we each have to be the difference in someone's life, just like you do, Alan.
Okay, Gabriella, what made you drop everything right now and start your World Kindness Tour?
Okay, what made me drop everything right now is really, it's necessary. You just have to turn on the news to understand that we want something different. And I think the world is ready to hear a global message of kindness. Okay.
Well, now I can hear a little bit of, I think, me in the background. But so Gabrielle, I think for most people, being kind is easy when things are going well for them. But what are some of the techniques that we can use when we're confronted with the things that you're talking about right now, the things that are being put out on the news?
Well, I think the first thing we need to realize is that we are reactive human beings. We just are. We're very reactive. So anger is so much easier than kindness.
There we go. That's something. Hello?
Being gentle and kind is so much easier. And so our guest later on will explain that even more than I do at the moment. But when you're angry, just remember one thing. Take a deep breath, take a virtual step back in your head, and say, it is not about me. This is about them. They are upset. It's not personally hitting me. So with other words, don't take everything on immediately. Let's first see what it's about. Does that make any sense, Alan?
Gabriella, it makes perfect sense. And before we bring on our guest, I've got one more point that I want to make for everybody out there. For those that have listened to the show, I've said for many years that we need positive TV shows to help work against, to help defeat all of the shows that are kind of focused on anything but something positive. I want everybody to know that I'm really excited that you've started one. Now, I'm a firm believer if we as viewers, give our attention, which is our eyeballs, to shows like yours, it will improve the overall wellness of the world. And if millions of us watch, advertisers will follow. And if advertisers follow, so will the networks. So, besides watching, what else can we do to help?
Well, what else can we do to help? I think, honestly, is just ask yourself the question, do you want a negative life for yourself, for your children? I think the answer is no. I think we all want the same. We all want security, we want a roof above our head, and we want love in our life. And to accomplish that is obviously by not being reactive and by not watching the TV segments that only repeat and repeat the same stuff. And let's be honest, Alan says it all the time, they make money off us just by watching. So let's, on all the social media platforms, actually ask for kind news, ask for things that we never hear about. Instead of having to have a video go viral, let's create the TV shows. Let's really do that.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So, Gabriella, is anything else that you want to touch on before we bring on the guest?
I just want to say real quickly that being on this world tour is so incredibly stimulating. I get insights every single day into, I see that people have gratitude. I see that they want to change. They just don't always know how. So that makes me personally very happy that I'm out there. If I can give them the how and the tools, and then they can go on and do something really wonderful in the 2-mile radius, that would be awesome. But the last thing I just quickly want to say, if anyone wants to be on my TV show for the Dare to Be Kind movement, please just contact me on Facebook, social media, anywhere. Just do the hashtag Dare to Be Kind, and we will interview you for the show.
Sounds great. Now, actually, I'm going to... Gabriella.
Can I ask you a question, Alan?
Sure.
Because this kind of goes hand in hand, because you see horrific things every single day being a private eye and a detective, and especially with children. You see that humans really treat each other quite badly, and that young people get exploited. We have human trafficking. We have parents mentally scarring children through nasty divorces. How do you keep positive when all this negativity is around you for your work?
Well, Gabriella, thank you for that, and it's a great question, and the answer actually is very simple. We're doing it right now, and so are you, everybody out there that's listening. Okay, for me, being on this show, being able to speak to people like Gabriella, being able to speak to the guest we're going to bring on, Jordanna, and many other people like that, that's how I get through it, because I bring myself back to this place to where I'm going to now be in the present. I'm going to focus on the things that are good that are going on out there and push away all of that negativity. I know there's negativity out there, but at the same time, we're in a position where we can make a difference, and as long as I'm making a positive difference, I can get through it. But thank you for sharing that. Or for asking that, and it leads us really right into our guest, because that is something that she is all about. So our guest today, who I just love to refer to as Jordanna, there's very few people in the world that you think of them and you hear their name, and all you need is the first name, and you know who we're talking about, and that's where I think that we're going to hear about Jordanna in the future, and people are going to go, oh, I know exactly who that is. But a little bit about her and her background, because she stopped separating intuition and business savvy over 15 years ago when she founded her first company. And when intuition started to guide her down her current path, she was as intrigued as everyone around her. Now, as the founder of Modern Day Sorcerer and the online accredited leadership academy, Sorcerer School, Jordanna helps leaders of all shapes and sizes to integrate all things spiritual into all things practical. Dissolving separation between the two, her proven methodology is refined power in business, money, government, and relationships. Now, Jordana has helped thousands of people at all levels of leadership and in a vast array of industries to find and hone their unique purpose, to understand and revel in their humanity, and to break free of societal limitations. One of her many quotes is, "In order for each of us to create change in today's world, it's time to stop reading and philosophizing and instead to learn and embody the knowledge that we have." So, Jordana, welcome to Answers for the Family.
Hi, Alan. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, it is great to have you, and as I said in the beginning of the show, and I don't know if you heard, Jordana has recently moved out of the country, so it was a little bit different as far as our setting up all the technical things. But I'm glad that Ronan was able to make that happen. Exactly.
Can you hear me? I had
Yes.
a full microphone set up with my audio engineer. Literally, I had an audio engineer setting up my microphone. And then all of that went down the drain when we ended up having to use phones. So I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me.
We can hear you well.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Exactly.
Awesome! It's a miracle.
Yep. It was meant to
Verizon
be.
is actually working today.
Yes. So now for someone now, I've started to learn so much more about Jordana and everything that she's teaching. And one of the things that I've learned is that much of what you teach revolves around uncertainty. Why do most of us struggle so much with uncertainty?
Honestly, it's all the reasons. Every single one of us, like every listener with us right now, all three of us, we were born into a time on the planet where whatever background we came from, whatever family we were brought up in, there were unconscious elements of patriarchy in our lives, religious imprinting, whether I have clients that have come from deep religious backgrounds and clients that have come from no religion at all. But we all have carried through our society and through the way society's been set up for us, all sorts of structures around us that are only about the physical world. So we look out into the world and we see like, okay, we live in these bodies, we look separate from each other. We live in houses on this earth thing. It all looks physical. But that's because for thousands of years, people were rejecting the feelings inside of themselves. And the feelings inside of us actually show us what's beyond the physical, the more non-physical, energetic realms. And so when we think it's all physical, we need this false sense of certainty. We were raised to believe in this false sense of stability, false sense of certainty, but we only were being taught half of the truth. And the other half of the truth is that everything's energetic. Mm-hmm. And within the awareness of the energetic realm, and when we start to really feel our feelings and realize that everything has an energy in it as much as its own physicality, we can start to access the truer certainty underneath. So it's like we were raised with a false sense of certainty, which has thrown us off and it's like when you build a house on a shaky foundation, life will have its earthquakes upon earthquakes because life has changed. Life is for expansion. And so when you build that house on a shaky foundation, it's inevitable this house isn't going to last. And so we were taught to build ourselves and our lives on shaky foundations instead of like a truer, deeper foundation of a more real sense of certainty, which runs much, much deeper than the physical.
I hear that. But the uncertainty, even if it's an inevitable part of life, why haven't we still learned it though? Why are we still struggling that we cannot be at peace or we cannot master it? Is it something that we'll never be able to master?
Yeah. So yes and no in terms of will we ever be able to master it. I believe that we all have the power to master it. And life is a constant evolution. And so what actually becomes certain when you can master uncertainty, what becomes certain is that uncertainty is supportive. So I'm currently in a situation, actually, some things have shifted in my life, and I'm in a lot of uncertainty, but I know it's like I've learned to trust so deeply that I actually can revel in the uncertainty and let it give me more than I could have imagined on my own. So yes, we all have the capacity to develop true, like a deeper sense of certainty, but it's again by accepting and loving the uncertainty. When we don't view things as negative, when we don't view things as wrong, and we can actually accept everything that's given to us as well as everything that we have to create, we can find more truth, quote unquote, beyond it. But to answer your question, Gabriella, about why is it so freaking hard for us? Well, one of the primary reasons I believe is that when, all of us that were born onto this planet in the time that we were, part of the rejection of the non-physical world came with a rejection of our humanity. It is quite ironic because our humanity, we think like, oh, well, we live in these bodies. Isn't that quite physical? But we also have these minds that we are infinite. We are infinite beings. So our feelings, our emotions, our thoughts, our beliefs, everything that makes up both our psyche and our emotional and our energetic bodies. We were only taught half of the coin. And so when we were taught to reject our humanity, we were taught to reject ourselves. And then when we come home to claiming our humanity, it's like, oh, wait, I have a mind that requires some support, and I have a body and energetics and all of these feelings. And when we accept our humanity, uncertainty becomes powerful, and we begin to accept that as well.
I love that you're saying that, because I'm kind of, you can ask Alan, I'm kind of an out of the box. I've never been able to be put in a box. So traveling every single day, my uncertainty is that I never know where I am tomorrow. But in a way, to me, it's a great relief, because I think that the person that knows that it's every day in LA or anywhere in the world for that matter is still not certain anyhow. But they kind of believe in a false uncertainty, because it's all uncertain, but they believe in a false certainty. That's what I was trying to say. So I love how you just framed that. That's really, really nice.
So,
I'll go ahead. If I can quickly interject.
Sure.
I work with people of all arrays of types of certainty and uncertainty. And I see just as much of a fear and more instability in the uncertainty with the millionaires and even billionaires that I've worked with. In fact, sometimes it's more because they believe they have more to lose, or they've had to work so hard to build a foundation that they think is what life is. So like they're standing on this foundation that they think is the truth, when it's like, no, actually, the uncertainty and the feelings and the ever-changing essence of life is the truth. And so it's just to say, like, any of our listeners, if you're making yourself wrong with, oh, well, no, I only have uncertainty because I'm struggling with money, or I only have uncertainty because I have problems with my marriage. It's like, no. Every human, our lives are actually built upon change, because our lives are built upon expansion. Absolutely. And it's the fear of that creates the instability and the uncertainty.
So it's the fear of the expansion, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Got it. I just wanted to make totally sure about that.
And the fear that we'll lose our perceptions of what we think the foundation is. So let's say that you've been married for 30 years and you can feel yourself being pulled to create a shift in your relationship, whether it's divorce or just a difference, shifting your relationship somehow. Yeah. If we believe that pull to complete the relationship or move the relationship into something new, if we believe that is our sense of stability, then we are afraid, right? But it's like, no, the expansion, which is always more, which is always better, that is the truth, right?
But you touched on one more word. Sorry, Alan, I bet you want to ask a question, but real quick. You said the word instability too, and just in case the listener caught that on too, could you just quickly touch on that? Because some people think that if you live an uncertain life or a bohemian type life, that you are an unstable human being. What would you say to that person that struggles with that in their families, because they are just made of different cloth, and they are just comfortable with the uncertainty that the other members in the family are not? What would you
It's a great question. So my perspective is that living a powerful life means that we're living from what we're experiencing inside. So it's not to make someone wrong. If someone says, no, I really need to have, $500,000 in savings before I have my first child, that's my truth. If it's like a deep sense of truth, great. Good for them.
Yeah.
However, it is possible to be just as stable with zero money and zero sense of what's going to happen tomorrow, because true stability comes from within, and it comes from a knowing that we are living whatever our truth, our proverbial truth is, and that we're living our truest expression. And when we're living our truest expression, we're able to find stability simply in the ground beneath us, in our own bodies, in our own sensations. And the physicalities of life, they become a different version of stable that's actually more deeply supportive when we're just in our true expression. So for anybody who's like, oh, I'm a black sheep, remember that it's your true expression that's guided you to other people's perspective of what they make up to be unstable, but that it's your work to find stability in yourself, because that's the only place stability lies for anyone.
So Jordana, wouldn't it be that we should really be striving for balance? Because I think in any situation, it would get incredibly boring if we had certainty on everything. If we had absolute certainty on everything, I think that things would get boring. On the other hand, if we don't have any certainty in anything that we're doing, I think that would be just an incredible amount of anxiety. So are we really just talking about find a balance in your own life?
Yes. And balance means, absolutely yes. And balance means different things for different people at different times.
Good point.
So I feel like finances are such a good example. Probably also because it's up in the collective right now. Generally where one person is expanding in a certain area or something being really important to them, it's also because the whole collective of all of our consciousness of all of the people on the planet are experiencing something similar. And money is really up in the collective for people right now, even those who have a lot of it. And so to use that again as an example, yes, a certain semblance of balance can be very supportive, having some savings, having some sort of financial foundation. And there are a lot of people that I'm seeing who are coming without a foundation, but they needed those, 20, 30, 40 years without it so that they could learn deeper stability in themselves first, because that was their truth. And now their truth is shifting. So balance, yes. And balance means different things at different times.
Sure. It makes good sense. So, tell us, and again, as I told people, I've now been working with you a little bit so that I've learned a little bit about the way in which you go about things. So one of the things that interested me is if you can tell us more about, how you believe uncertainty is feminine, and what does that really mean?
So I'll first preface, the word feminine, it's because really we don't really have all the words that we need yet for these new expressions, because a lot of what we're now learning as humans is more of an expression, and we can feel it in our systems, but we haven't created the words yet for them. So I use the word feminine for lack of better words. You could also call it yin. And it's really all of the things that embody the softness, the flow of life. It's like flow. If you look out at the ocean, it has its own sense of stability, but it looks quite unstable. That's more of a feminine way of being. And so, the way a woman might change her mind one day to the next, but if she's really in her truth, then that is stability for her. And so part of why uncertainty is more of a yin, feminine, flowy thing is because it's part of the change of life. It's part of the dynamic nature of life. So the quote-unquote masculine nature is our rootedness, our groundedness, our security. And we require all of those things, because if you're not secure in yourself, then the wind can blow and you flow right over, right? But we also require the ability to sway in the wind and to enjoy the sway as life grows. So because uncertainty is really, it comes through, and because of life's dynamic, ever-changing nature and expansion, we require a softness to meet it and greet it and allow it. Because if you try to force uncertainty, if you try to force it to be something it's not, then it actually will not work in your favor. But if you allow and you let go and you soften into it the way that is more of a yin nature, then you're going with the flow of it. And when we go with the flow of things, no matter, even if it's something that you do not desire and you're like, no, this is an absolute no, going with the flow of your no is still going with the flow, right? So whenever we go with the flow of meeting things where they're at and where we're at, then we're able to meet it with an openness that allows for whatever we were supposed to get from it to come to fruition.
I like that.
Okay, we are talking about becoming a modern-day sorcerer or sorceress. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. When we come back, I want to ask Jordana, what are some tools in learning to become comfortable with uncertainty? We'll be right back.
Founded over 30 years ago to meet the needs of families in crisis, West Shield has continually focused on resolving issues that negatively impact families and businesses. Our signature therapeutic transportation service helps to ensure that adolescents in crisis are safely transported to specialized schools, programs, and treatment centers with unsurpassed experience and success. We are supported by our full-service licensed investigation agency that has legally, professionally, and compassionately located hundreds of runaways and teens. We are experienced and qualified to help, offering solutions which may include referrals to our international network of top professionals in the fields of educational consulting, psychology, psychiatry, and investigations. Simply put, West Shield Adolescent Services and West Shield Investigations are the best solutions when your family is facing a personal crisis. Call 1-800-899-8585, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's 1-800-899-8585, or visit our website at westshield.com. Thank you.
All right, we're back. You're listening to Answers for the Family, and we are talking about becoming a modern-day sorcerer. Now, for those of you, if you would like to follow along, you can open up another window. If you are at your computer, obviously if you're driving, don't do this, but if you're at your computer, you can open up another window. You can follow along at moderndaysorcerer.com / P as in Paul, B as in boy, A as in apple, M as in Mary. And you can download your free copy of Jordana's Powerful Beyond All Measure meditation. So and we'll come back to that as well. But we left with a question, which for Jordana is, what are some tools in learning to become comfortable with uncertainty?
Great question, Alan. Great question. There are so many, and again, they're really built on the foundation of coming back home to the things that we've ignored or been afraid of that have created the instability and the uncertainty. And so one thing, we've been taught to ignore our bodies. As people have grown spiritually, they've been taught, oh, well, your body's just this meat suit. It's not real. And it's like, no. Actually, our bodies, if everything is that greater essence of life, so is your body. And so by learning to really come home to our bodies, it's where we find stability. It's where we find certainty. It's like, even people who are sick, even if you're handicapped or in a wheelchair, you still have the support of your body in that wheelchair. It's like your butt is still supporting your torso, for example, or if you're standing, your feet are still supporting your ankles up and up and up. So we have that stability in our body just waiting for us to come back to the feeling of the truer stability within ourselves. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was wondering if you were saying that because of the grounding that you said earlier, that's why the body is so important.
Well, so grounding itself can be very supportive, yes, like even grounding ourselves into the earth. The body is also supportive for grounding, and part of that, okay, so if we look now at this opening that we're all experiencing to, oh, but wait, everything's energy, and so, but wait, this world that I thought was the world is really only like 1 or 2 or 3% of the world, because there's all this energy and everything. That can be very shaky for people. It feels very vast. And though there's power in vastness, if we don't have an anchor for the vastness, it just runs up. We're like balloons floating up into the sky. And the body supports as the anchor for our vastness. It supports as the anchor for us to get to experience the power within us and the power of, whatever you want to call that greater energy, God, source, time, whatever you call it. To experience the power of that energy and the power within ourselves, we have our bodies to anchor into it. And then our power can be bigger and vast because it's got the anchor.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I love that. How does getting to know your formlessness support with mastering uncertainty specifically?
Could you ask that again, Gabriella? I'm so sorry. My phone's a bit fuzzy. Say that one more time.
No worries. How does getting to know this formlessness support with mastering uncertainty specifically? Like everything that we can't see, but that we feel. How do we support that?
How do we support the getting to know the formlessness? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I believe that's what she's saying. And unfortunately, I think Gabriella is still driving, so I think we're starting to break up a little bit.
Well, it could also be my phone still.
Yeah.
I think I've got the question. So it's a great question. Getting to know the formlessness, so what can support in that? We each have a unique wisdom to do so. So one thing is letting go of what we think it's supposed to look like to get to know it. So let's say, for example, that you have a friend who's quite intuitive because they can see things or they just know things, but maybe you don't experience that. Well, you have your own form of intuition. You have your own ways of, we all have all the capacities for all the things. Yet there's a reason we come in these unique bodies with unique minds and consciousness and experiences. And it's also because we have unique purposes to serve. And so one really important thing is to stay true to whatever your experience of your purpose is, whether you know your purpose or not, to really stay on track and on the path of like, okay, this is what feels true for me. So despite or regardless of what anyone says, this is my truth. Because we each have a unique wisdom that when coming home to that unique wisdom will support us in that balance between the physical and the formless in a way that's supportive for us. Because sometimes it's unsupportive to go into these big energetic containers, if you will, of formlessness if we're not ready. But it's always going to be a little bit scary. It's always going to be a little bit uncertain. But your unique wisdom, based on the following of your own purpose, will guide you to what the next step is for you that will allow you to experience the formlessness and get to know it in a way that resonates with you and is supportive for you.
Jordana,
thank you.
Yeah, Jordana, we have a couple of listener questions that have come in, and again, I want to thank those listeners that take the time to send in questions. I know for many people this is in the middle of their work day. Oftentimes it's teachers and such that are working the middle of the day that will send in these questions either right before the show or in some cases during the show. And some have said actually that they subscribe to us through iTunes and then they listen to the answer later. So this question reads, my son is one of the most indecisive people. At 29, he does not participate or socialize with others well. Even coming to see his family across town is a constant, I don't know, I'll let you know. He is becoming more reclusive all the time, and I've tried to get him to go and speak to someone about this. He's a software engineer with an advanced degree. He's very bright, but he works from home for a startup company and earns a good living. If he isn't working, he is watching movies or playing video games, and I was hoping you might have some advice or that your book might be one that would help me help him. And this is from Georgina, in Arizona.
Can you hear me, Alan?
Yes.
Okay. I think I've got the whole question.
Okay.
Wow. So it's quite the question in the sense that I didn't get her name, but to the listener that wrote in the question,
Yes.
First of all, let's acknowledge her, because it's a lot, especially as a parent, to be facing a situation with a child who, it's like he's an engineer. You can see that he's got, power to contribute to the world, but he's not acting upon it. It can be very challenging for a parent. So a few pieces. First of all, patience is key here. So to not try to force or push anything, because we don't know exactly what he's experiencing inside of himself. And what he's experiencing inside of himself is key to getting him to where is a better place for him. Because a better place may not look, and this is important for parents to realize, that a better place does not probably look like it would look for you, because your child is unique. Your child was born with their own consciousness and their own purpose. And so, first of all, to let go of, okay, what do you think it might look like for him? Like, to start really acting upon his power and building a life that is of that, it's going to probably look a lot different for him. So allowing for that and being open with it. And then to slowly and gently start to ask him about his feelings. First of all, men, now all humans need to be acknowledged. So if we don't make him wrong but you're always playing video games, and you begin by acknowledging him and meeting him where he's at in the things he is doing that are powerful and supportive for himself, and then begin to slowly open up the box of feelings. And it may have to start with thoughts. He may not be in touch with his feelings yet, but whatever is going on is creating, most likely there's a numbness or a need for distraction that's leading to a video game addiction, if it is an addiction. And that is coming from deeper roots of something inside of him, that the way for him to get in touch with that is by being honest with his thoughts and being honest with his feelings. So I would also suggest that you find potentially, a therapist or someone who somatic experiencing is another possibility, because somatic work, which is, again, very in touch with the body, can help someone who's struggling with any form of addiction to get more in touch with the sensations that are underneath the numbness or the distraction.
Yeah, and I think if I could add to that as well, and again, having spoken with Jordana, I know that, if you would like him to get in touch with Jordana, or if there is a way to make that connection, that may be something for him just to talk to somebody. If he's able to talk to somebody like Jordana that could, again, if he's in his own environment, then talking to somebody through the computer or over the phone or something like that as a first step might be something that is not as difficult for him than necessarily to say, okay, look, I don't think that you're socially getting what you need, so we need to leave your warm, comfortable environment and go down to somebody's office. So maybe the first step is just have him talk to somebody from the environment that he's in, and then at that point, see how comfortable he is to move beyond that. Jordana, would you agree with that? Well, I think... Okay, I think our connection may be a little difficult. Jordana, are you still with us? Okay. Gabriella, are you still with us?
Yes, I am. You were a little bit cutting up, so I got parts of what you said.
Okay.
That's why you didn't hear me.
Oh, that wasn't just me.
No, but here's the thing. I think the overall energy out there, because of the fact that we were suggesting that it's somewhat negative to seclude yourself and only focus on different types of mechanical or electronic items. So those that control all of those things said, wait a minute, we're going to break up this conversation. So yeah, we're trying to get they're trying to get people addicted to that stuff. Why are you trying to get people off of it? We still control that. But anyway, Jordana, if you didn't catch that, essentially what I shared with part of my suggestion is that is that her first step might be just to have him speak to somebody from his warm, comfortable environment that it seems to like he has set up to call someone like you and just talk about it. And then see, rather than go in and say, okay, look, we need to drag you out of here and go into somebody's office and talk about this, and they make it wrong. Instead, maybe have him start that conversation from somewhere that he's more comfortable.
Absolutely. It's important that he or anyone who's struggling with anything that's distracting them from really living their lives fully, which could also be working too hard. It could also be, distracting by nose to the grindstone and only ever working. So whatever form of distraction that is, it's important that that person be seen from a place of their power as opposed to a powerlessness. And so to find somebody that he or, that type of person can talk to, anyone who's struggling, if they can find someone that they can talk to that will see them in their power no matter what they've been going through, that will support them in seeing the power inside of themselves to come home to that.
That sounds...
I really like that you said that, Jordana, because I heard you say with the advice that you gave the mother, Georgina, is be kind. I heard you basically say, be kind and respectful of what he does do, instead of saying, oh, you're always playing games. And this is what happens, right? We're often so judgmental. And so the young man might just turn himself off, or like you said, numbing, by doing that on purpose. But there's a lot of feeling under there. And the person that might be talking to him is doing all the wrong steps, and he turns even more away instead of being told that he's a great person. I think all of us, Alan, you too, Jordana, we don't get to hear that a lot, that we're good the way we are, that there's absolutely nothing wrong with us. So
and our deepest wounds, I so agree, Gabriella. Thank you. And I also believe that our deepest wounds are often very depictive of our deepest power. And I can't say for sure for you said Georgina, for Georgina's son, I cannot say this with an absolute knowing, but it is very, very possible that even if he's numbing through video games, it's also quite possible that his mind is interacting with the video game in a way that is of deep wisdom, that he's trying to get in touch with and just doesn't have another way yet. So when we acknowledge even the thing that looks not like the ideal thing, it usually comes from a place of wisdom that's trying to come through.
All right. And you know what? I just looked up, and we only have about 30 seconds, but I want to get a comment in. This is a comment that's come through as well. And so, Jordana, it says, sometimes it is a bit discouraging when you attend a social event and people are pouncing on you to sell you something, or they are looking for free resources to promote their own businesses. Online networks seem to be part of the game. It says, I was captured by your comment about revel on their humanity and break free of social limitations. I'm about to order the book, but wanted to hear from you what you feel about being able to have people focus on less sell and less take, and in contrast to more giving and helping, or just enjoying people without always having an agenda. And this is from Glenn in Florida.
I'm not sure. She might not have heard it.
Okay. And actually, we're about out of time. So first of all, so for those listening, I just want to acknowledge Jordana. I appreciate what she's doing out there. If you would like to get more information, her website is moderndaysorcerer.com. As I said before, there's a free gift offer that you can download a free copy of her Powerful Beyond All Measures meditation by going to modernDaySorcerer.com/P as in Paul, B as in boy, A as in apple, M as in Mary. You can do that today. Again, Jordana, thank you. I'm sorry we had some technical difficulties, but we're speaking from 3 different parts of the country, actually 3 different parts of North America. So, again, thank you. Now, for everybody out there, please be sure to put us on your calendar and tune in next Monday when we will be joined by Dana Shashau to discuss eating disorders, what parents can do. And please, if you get a chance, visit our archives of past interviews at answersforthefamily.com, or you can subscribe to us through iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube. So for everybody out there, just remember, be good human beings, be kind, and be with us next week on Answers for the Family. And Gabriella, can you sign off on your end?
I will see you next week, Alan. Look forward to the new guest, and we will have lots to bring with you to you next week, because there's a whole week of kindness acts happening in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
You're listening to Answers for the Family with Alan Cardoza, right here on LA Talk Radio.